My name is Molly, and I'm turning 32 this year. I work as a salesperson at a certain company. My husband's name is Mike, and he was my high school classmate. This year marks our 10th wedding anniversary. We started dating in high school and continued our long-distance relationship, even after going to college. However, our feelings for each other remained unchanged, and we got married right after graduation. Although we dated for a long time before getting married, we still love each other very much. Shortly after getting married, our eldest daughter, Kate, was born. She's turning 9 this year. Currently, I'm pregnant with our second child, and I'm excited about giving birth after a long time. However, unlike when I was pregnant with Kate, I've noticed significant changes in my health this time. During work hours, I felt nauseous and got unusually sleepy, which I never experienced before. Maybe it's because I'm getting older, and it's harder to recover from all the tiredness, even after I sleep. Or maybe it's the stress from work and taking care of our child. I considered various possibilities, but when I used an over-the-counter pregnancy test, it confirmed that I was pregnant. When I was pregnant with Kate, I had no noticeable changes in my health to the extent that I was unaware of the pregnancy. Perhaps because I didn't experience it with my eldest daughter, the morning sickness feels even more intense now. Working in sales, I struggled with the symptoms of morning sickness while trying to keep up with daily tasks. However, I thought it would affect my work if it continued this way, so I decided to take some days off after consulting my boss. When I discussed it with my husband, he seemed to remember clearly when Kate was born. Therefore, he seemed surprised and unsettled by the severity of my morning sickness this time around. This time your morning sickness is really bad, huh? Well, it's best if you take a break from work for a while. The morning sickness is far worse than when I was pregnant with Kate, and I'm not feeling well at all. I want to take a break until at least I get into a stable period and focus on my health and the baby's health. I had hoped that my health would improve once I took some days off. However, the morning sickness didn't subside at all. In fact, it seems to be getting worse day by day, and even staying at home didn't help at all. The symptoms are so severe that I can't manage household chores and spend most of the day in bed. Having taken the leave, I really want to at least manage the household tasks, but I can't move as I'd like to. Especially laundry, as the scent of the detergent makes me nauseous, and I can't handle it properly. Initially, Mike seemed concerned about me. However, recently, he seems to be getting frustrated with my condition. He might be thinking, since you're not working, at least handle the household chores, right? Unable to even manage household chores, I felt ashamed of myself, and I felt sorry for Mike, who was busy with work. Since then, Mike has completely changed, almost like a different person. We used to hug every morning before he left for work, but now he leaves silently. Mike's been swamped with work, often coming home late due to overtime. He handles tasks like document preparation, data entry, and phone calls at his job. Though overtime was always a given in his line of work, since I gave birth to Kate, he reduced it to spend some quality time with her. Being dual income earners, he wanted to reduce my burden, and thus ensured that chores were evenly divided. Yet recently, he's not been helping much, and overtime has been consistent. Me being on leave, and the reduction in income probably pushed Mike to strive harder at work for our family. Perhaps he'd prefer if I handled all the household chores. While I understand his perspective, with my morning sickness, I can't meet his expectations right now. One night, I mustered up the courage to ask for his help. You've been working so hard lately, especially since I've taken the leave. I'm sorry. Well, I have to earn more for the family, especially with the overtime. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry I can't do much housework. The morning sickness is severe. The smell of the detergents and any meals make me nauseous. Really? So can you please come home a bit earlier and help out with the chores? Once I feel better, I'll return to work. Upon hearing my plea, Mike's face clearly showed his displeasure. Don't we have our own rules? I'm working hard, even with overtime, to support the family. So Molly, please take care of the house. I understand, but you can't neglect household chores just because of your morning sickness. Mike suddenly raised his voice. And please lower your voice. Kate might wake up. You're being too easy on yourself, Molly. I'm also having a tough time working overtime nonstop. Even if your morning sickness is bad, please take care of the chores. Okay, I understand. I was being too easy on myself. Mike had never shown this much emotion before. I kept thinking if Kate found out, it might hurt her feelings. I repeatedly apologized and tried to calm him down. However, no amount of my apologies seemed to pacify his anger. He went to our bedroom with a sullen face and disappeared. I had hoped to ask for his cooperation, even just a little, but I was disappointed that my husband wouldn't even listen to me. I felt it was unusual for my usually calm husband to show such intense anger. I think my husband might have some other concerns. With this thought in mind, I felt uneasy. The next morning, I was awakened by the sound of the front door opening. It seems my husband left for work earlier than usual. Maybe he didn't want to see me because of what happened last night. I was deeply hurt by my husband's sudden rejection. Sighing and sitting down, I noticed Kate had woken up and come down to the living room. Kate seemed uncomfortable and sat down next to me. Mom, I heard the conversation between you and Dad last night. Oh, you did? Kate must have been shocked to hear how my husband acted. As I tried to comfort her, Kate looked at me sharply and said, "It's terrible that Dad wouldn't even listen. You are pregnant and suffering from morning sickness." And he was yelling, which is totally unlike him. It was scary. She then spread her arms out wide in a gesture of disbelief and sighed. Mom, rest up. I'll help out with the chores. I'm sorry I haven't helped until now. From that morning, Kate started helping out proactively with household chores. Since she learned how to do chores from a young age, I can rely on her confidently. I was genuinely pleased to see how kind-hearted my daughter had become. Since that argument, the strained relationship with my husband continued. He now often leaves home early and returns late with hardly any conversation between us. With the birth of our second child approaching, I started to feel anxious. Just when I thought our relationship was beyond repair, Kate shared some unexpected news. Mom, something's wrong. One evening, as soon as Kate returned from school, she said this with a pale face. Kate, what's wrong? Are you hurt? She shook her head, gesturing no. No, I'm not hurt, but I feel sick. What happened? Kate looked down, biting her lower lip, wondering if she should speak or not. What happened? Calm down and tell me. Tears welled up in Kate's eyes as I spoke warmly to her. On the way home from school, I saw Dad and Abby's mom kissing. Really? Abby is a good friend of Kate's. I knew it right away because they played together all the time, and she comes to our house too. It seems that Kate witnessed the scene of an affair between her father and Abby's mother. Unable to control her emotions, she sobbed into my chest. Oh my God. Calm down, honey. To calm Kate down, I gently hugged her. My husband, who I thought was irreplaceable, became an object of hatred in an instant because of the affair. Unable to forgive my husband's infidelity, I vowed revenge. To do so, I had to gather thorough evidence of my husband's infidelity. In order to obtain evidence of my husband's infidelity, I began to investigate. I immediately searched the rooms while my husband was away. I was dismayed to find a large number of receipts that I had never seen before. My morning sickness was so bad that I couldn't clean up much, so he thought he could do whatever he wanted. I was furious that I was being so disrespected like that. I took a closer look at the receipts and found that they were for very expensive brand-named bags and accommodations. I looked at the receipts and wondered whose money paid for these expensive purchases. I gasped as I remembered something. With a burning desire to confirm the truth, despite being pregnant, I managed to make my way to the bank. Upon reflection, I realized it had been a long time since I left the house, and it was rare for me to go out like this due to morning sickness. I wasn't feeling well, and the sunlight beamed through. When I finally arrived at the bank, my hands trembled from nervousness as I got out my passbook. There I was confronted with a reality I wished I could avoid. Just as I suspected, it's from this account. Mike and I had opened a joint account to manage our finances after our marriage. The joint account was the destination for both of our salaries. From that account, we paid for our living expenses and saved the rest. We saved for our future, for our children's education, and for purchasing our own home. This joint account was also the one charged for Mike's frequent purchases of high-end items like designer bags on his credit card. This alone was enough to fuel my anger, but an even more shocking revelation awaited. Even though he's supposed to be working overtime, Mike's salary hasn't increased. Why? His company was known for being employee-friendly, meaning his salary should have increased with overtime hours. Yet despite claims of working overtime, his salary didn't change at all. At that moment, all the mysteries were unraveled, revealing a startling truth. His late returns home were merely because he was having an affair with Abby's mother. It was clear from not getting any overtime pay that Mike hadn't been working the extra hours he claimed. While I, who's pregnant and unwell, was going through such tough times, Mike didn't offer any support and instead engaged in an affair, which left me deeply disappointed. One evening, while Mike was in the bath, I determinedly took his smartphone, trying not to alert Mike. My hands trembled with tension as I entered the passcode on the phone's lock screen. And just like that, the phone unlocked. Perhaps Mike had let his guard down, thinking my severe morning sickness had made me less vigilant. The realization that he'd underestimated me so much also fueled my growing anger. But as I kept my cool, I checked the contents of the smartphone. In the chat app, there were clear exchanges between Mike and Abby's mother that confirmed their affair. I told my wife I have overtime so we can meet tonight. Really? Can we meet tonight? I can't wait to see you. The chat exchanges between Mike and Abby's mother were embarrassingly full of heart emojis. If I still had strong affection for my husband, witnessing such betrayal would have surely driven me to madness. But now that I no longer have any feelings of love for him, I was able to focus calmly on gathering evidence. When I looked at their recent text messages, I found out they were planning to go on a trip. The trip was scheduled for a week starting from the weekend, with the intention of enjoying various hikes. Of course, my husband didn't inform me about this trip. I was curious to hear what excuse he'd give on the day of the trip, so I waited patiently. Finally, the morning of the trip day arrived. Despite it being a holiday, my husband was very busy with the preparations for the trip from early in the morning. "Good morning. What's got you so busy this early?" Caught off guard, my husband looked rather surprised. "Oh, well, you see, what are you doing up so early?" I woke up hearing some noise. "What's with the suitcase? Are you going on a trip?" "I have a company trip for a week starting today. I thought I told you. Just wait, I'll buy you a nice souvenir." "Did you? Maybe I just forgot. My bad." Seemingly having heard the commotion, Kate woke up too. Kate seemed curious about today, and with a slightly dazed expression, she spoke to her father. "Dad, what's happening? Are you leaving?" "He's going on a company trip. He'll bring back a souvenir, so let's look forward to it." "Got it. Can't wait for the souvenir." "Take care." With our smiles, my husband left the house with a wry smile. After my blatantly lying husband left, we looked at each other and burst into laughter. Dad's voice was shaking when he lied. With that, anyone could tell he was lying. After sharing a good laugh, we began discussing our next steps. "Okay, I'm about to discuss something important. Listen carefully. I'm thinking of getting a divorce. I believe it's crucial for you too, so I'd like to hear your thoughts." Kate, being only 9, said, "I think it's better for you to get a divorce." I'm embarrassed and don't like having a father who cheats on Mom. I'm sure Abby would feel the same. Did something happen with Abby too? Throughout our discussion, Kate seemed concerned about Abby's situation. Abby's mom used to just relax at home and never did anything, but she suddenly disappeared, so Abby was really upset. Just as my husband betrayed our trust, it seems that Abby's mother also betrayed her daughter's trust. Upon hearing this fact, I felt strongly that there should be no compromise when it comes to taking revenge on them. Abby seems to be going through a lot too. We need to punish both of them. I felt a surge of motivation that I could never have imagined before. With determination, I took action. First, to stop my husband from spending any money, I canceled our credit cards. I decided it was necessary to fairly divide the savings in our joint account, so I transferred half of it to my account. To avoid disputes over property division in the divorce, I decided to secure my assets early on. Kate and I started packing up our belongings. I had already explained the situation to my parents, so we decided to move back to my parents' home. Kate, let me confirm once more. Once we divorce, we can't come back to this house. Are you really okay with that? Yes, I'm okay. Then let's go to Grandpa and Grandma's house. Yes, let's go quickly. Kate seemed to be filled with anticipation. She seemed neither sad about our divorce nor mournful, but rather had a cheerful look, which put my mind at ease for the moment. We completed the move to my parents' house in high spirits. I decided to let go of the house filled with memories of our time with my husband and start a new chapter in my life. This decision came after discovering a message exchange between my husband and Abby's mother. "Oh, I want to be freed from that house as soon as possible. I want a divorce right away and live with you." From the messages, it appeared that Abby's mother had already moved back to her parents' home. To think she would abandon her family, including her young daughter, for an affair and selfishly move back to her parents' house is unbelievable. I found out that my husband had visited Abby's mother's parents' house from the history on his car navigation system. I packed up my husband's belongings and sent them to that address. I sent his belongings to his mistress, Abby's mother, and subsequently terminated our house. This way, my husband would be able to live freely with Abby's mother. Since my husband insisted he was on a company trip, I sent his valuables along with a letter to his company. Having emptied the house, the weight on my heart lifted, and I felt refreshed and ready to take a new step forward. The next morning, I received an early call from my husband. "Molly, I'm sorry, I seem to be running out of money. It looks like I forgot some cash at home." "Oh dear, that's a bummer. I'm really in a bind. Can you transfer some money to my account, even if it's just a little? Actually, things are a bit tight for me this month. Since you're on a company trip, maybe you can borrow from a colleague." "Well, about that, just explain your situation and borrow from your colleagues. I'm having severe morning sickness right now, and it's hard for me to talk. I'm hanging up." "Wait, hold on. I felt a bit better knowing that my husband couldn't use his credit card anymore. It's easy to imagine that this made the pleasant trip with his mistress very tense for him. The phone calls from my husband didn't stop. I sent him a message saying I have severe morning sickness and can't answer the phone. Don't call me anymore. No matter how many times he called, I didn't answer. 3 days later, I received another call from him and reluctantly picked up. "Molly, why is the house empty? What's going on?" Weren't you supposed to be on a trip for 7 days? Why are you back so soon?" My husband was initially at a loss for words, but his anger quickly erupted. "Everything's gone. Even the contract has been terminated. Isn't that too selfish?" "Who's being selfish now? You were on a trip with your mistress, right? I sent all our stuff to Abby's parents' house and started the divorce proceedings. Everything's going according to your wishes. Goodbye and good luck." "What? You found out about the affair and you're divorcing me?" Realizing that I knew about his affair and even who the other woman was, he was visibly shaken. I hung up and deleted all his contacts from my phone. With nowhere to go, my husband seemingly took refuge at Abby's parents' house. At their house, Abby's mother was kneeling with her head down, and across from her sat her parents, her husband and Abby, all of them looking furious. Apparently, Abby's mother had returned home claiming she couldn't bear the emotional abuse from her husband. Her parents believed her and felt sorry for her, but the reality was different. Since they found out she had been lying and was even having an affair, there was no way they would forgive her. Abby's mother and my husband were both severely reprimanded, made to sign divorce papers in front of everyone, and forced to pay for compensation. Afterwards, her parents kicked them both out. Since returning to my parents' home, Kate and I have been living freely. My worries disappeared, and my morning sickness subsided, allowing me to return to work after my maternity leave was finished. Every day, Kate seems to enjoy playing with her grandparents after returning from school. The divorce proceedings went smoothly, thanks to the support of my lawyer. Of course, I had ample evidence which allowed the divorce to proceed in my favor. In order to secure my ex-husband's income, I demanded both compensation and child support payments and sent a letter to his company asking them not to let him resign. His boss, who is a married man with children, saw the letter and was furious. He negotiated with the company to deduct compensation and child support payments from my ex-husband's salary. With this boss always keeping a close eye on my ex-husband's actions, even if he faced any challenges at work, it seems unlikely he will be able to quit his job that easily. My ex-husband is financially struggling because he spent too much money on his mistress's lavish lifestyle. On top of that, having lost his home, he is forced to live in a cheap company dorm, making it hard for him to quit his job easily. Abby and her father have now found peace. Abby has accepted her parents' divorce and seems to smile more compared to before. She told Kate that she genuinely enjoys living with her father. Knowing that Abby is living a happy life brought genuine relief to my heart. Soon after, I gave birth to a lovely baby boy. The fact that my ex-husband can't hold my beloved son in his arms shows how foolish he was. When Kate saw her adorable brother, she cheered in delight. I looked at both my beloved daughter and son's faces and vowed in my heart to raise both of them well.
We've detected unusual signals from grid section 7B on Mars, Dr. Phillips announced, his voice echoing through mission control. They seem to be emanating from the water discovery site. I watched from my station as my stepsister Amanda's face turned pale. She knew exactly what grid section 7B meant. It was where I had discovered the first evidence of liquid water before she had me removed from the project. My name is Olivia Parker, and 2 weeks ago, I was the lead signal analyst for NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Project. That was until Amanda, the newly appointed mission director, convinced the board I was emotionally unstable and unfit for such a critical position. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on me as I watched her frantically tap at her tablet, trying to make sense of the incoming data. The signals were unlike anything we'd seen before. Complex patterns that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the Martian water's subsurface movements. Dr. Foster, Amanda called out, her voice tight with barely controlled panic, "Can you make anything of these patterns?" The older scientist shook his head, his forehead creased with confusion. "These aren't standard electromagnetic frequencies. The algorithm isn't recognizing any known patterns." Of course it wasn't. The signals were encoded using a system I had developed specifically for the Mars Water Project, a system I hadn't shared with anyone yet when Amanda orchestrated my removal. I leaned back in my chair, remembering the day everything changed. I had just confirmed the presence of liquid water beneath the Martian surface using a specialized frequency detection method I'd spent years developing. It was the breakthrough we'd been waiting for, proof that Mars could potentially support life. "This is impossible," I had whispered, double-checking my readings. "Amanda, look at this." My stepsister had rushed over, her eyes widening as she saw the data. But instead of sharing my excitement, she had quickly composed herself and said, "I'll take it from here, Olivia. Why don't you take a break?" I should have known something was wrong by the way she couldn't meet my eyes. Within hours, she had called an emergency board meeting, presenting my discovery as her own while simultaneously questioning my mental stability. "Dr. Parker has been showing signs of extreme stress," she had told them, her voice dripping with fake concern. "She's been working excessive hours, seeing patterns where none exist. I'm worried she's becoming a liability to the mission." Now, watching the chaos unfold in mission control, I felt a strange sense of calm. The signals were getting stronger, more insistent. Whatever was happening beneath the Martian surface, it was trying to tell us something. "The frequency is changing," someone shouted. It's like it's responding to our probe's presence." Amanda spun around, her perfectly maintained composure finally cracking. "That's not possible. Run a full diagnostic on all systems." I knew what they would find. Nothing wrong with the systems, just an increasingly complex series of signals that only I could understand. The encoding method I developed wasn't just about detecting water. It was about understanding its behavior, its interaction with the Martian environment, and potentially, its relationship with something we hadn't even imagined yet. "Ms. Parker." Dr. Phillips' voice cut through my thoughts. "You were working on signal analysis before your departure. Any insights?" Before I could respond, Amanda interrupted. "She's not authorized to access this data anymore. We'll figure it out ourselves." But the tremor in her voice betrayed her uncertainty. The stakes were too high now. This wasn't just about professional rivalry or family dynamics. This was about potentially the biggest discovery in human history. "Actually," I said, standing up slowly, "I think I might be able to help." I walked over to the main display, aware of every eye in the room following me. "Those patterns you're seeing, they're not random. They're encoded using a specialized algorithm I developed for the water detection project." The room fell silent. Amanda's face went from pale to red. "You never submitted any documentation about a new algorithm," she said accusingly. "I was going to," I replied calmly, "the day you had me removed from the project." Dr. Phillips stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overriding any political concerns. "Can you decode these signals?" I nodded, my heart racing despite my outward calm. "I can. But I'll need full access restored to my systems and complete autonomy in my analysis." "Absolutely not," Amanda protested. She's trying to manipulate the situation. But as if to punctuate my point, the signals suddenly intensified, creating patterns across every screen in mission control. The message was clear: something was happening on Mars, something unprecedented, and I was the only one who could understand what it was trying to tell us. Dr. Phillips looked at Amanda, then at me, then at the increasingly complex display of signals. His decision was visible on his face before he even spoke. "Restore Dr. Parker's access. Full clearance immediately." As I sat down at my old station, I could feel Amanda's glare burning into my back. But it didn't matter anymore. The truth was about to come out, and no amount of office politics or family drama could stop it. The signals from Mars continued their mysterious dance across my screen. And for the first time in 2 weeks, I allowed myself to smile. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about being exactly who you are, exactly when it matters most. Let's see what Mars is trying to tell us, I whispered, my fingers flying across the keyboard as I began to decode the message that would change everything. For the next 12 hours, I immersed myself in the signals while Mission Control buzzed with nervous energy around me. The patterns were more complex than anything I'd seen before, suggesting that whatever we discovered wasn't just water, it was something far more intriguing. Dr. Phillips, I called out, not taking my eyes off the screen. Look at this frequency modulation. The water isn't just present, it's moving in coordinated patterns. He leaned over my shoulder, his breath catching as he saw the data. This is unlike anything we've ever recorded on Mars. Amanda hovered nearby, trying to maintain her authority while clearly feeling it slip away. It's probably just subsurface geological activity, she said dismissively, but her voice lacked conviction. I pulled up a 3-dimensional model of the signal patterns. Now look at the regularity. These aren't random movements. There's a distinct sequence repeating every 47 minutes. The room fell silent as I manipulated the model, showing how the water's movement corresponded with the signals we were receiving. Years of research, countless nights spent developing my algorithm. It was all leading to this moment. The water, I explained, my voice steady despite my racing heart, seems to be flowing through what appears to be artificial channels. Artificial? Amanda scoffed. That's impossible. You're seeing what you want to see. Dr. Phillips held up his hand, silencing her. Continue, Dr. Parker. I brought up another screen showing the decoded signal patterns. These aren't just electromagnetic frequencies. They're carrying information, specific sequences that repeat and evolve. It's almost like what? Dr. Phillips leaned closer. Like a language, I finished quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. Amanda's face had gone from skeptical to ashen. She knew what this meant. If I was right, this wasn't just about finding water on Mars. This was about finding evidence of intelligent design, possibly even ancient Martian technology. We need to inform the board immediately, Dr. Phillips said, reaching for his phone. Wait. Amanda stepped forward. We can't go public with this yet. We need more verification, more tests. Like the verification you needed before removing me from the project? I asked calmly, never taking my eyes off the data streams. Before she could respond, new signals started pouring in. The patterns were changing, becoming more urgent. I frantically typed, trying to keep up with the incoming data. Something's happening, I announced, my fingers flying across the keyboard. The water movement is accelerating. The channels, they're activating in sequence. The main screen filled with streaming data, the patterns now visible to everyone in the room. Even those who couldn't decode the signals could see that something extraordinary was occurring. Dr. Parker, Dr. Phillips's voice was tense. What exactly are we looking at? I took a deep breath, knowing my next words would change everything. I believe we're watching an ancient Martian system reactivate. The water isn't just present, it's part of something bigger, some kind of mechanism that's been dormant until now. Amanda stepped forward, her composure finally cracking completely. You can't prove any of this. This is exactly why we removed you. These wild theories without proper evidence. Actually, I interrupted, pulling up my original research files. I can prove it. These are my complete findings from before you had me removed, including preliminary evidence of the channel system. Evidence you buried when you took credit for the water discovery. The room went completely still. Every eye turned to Amanda, who stood frozen, her face a mask of shock and growing horror. Is this true? Dr. Phillips asked her quietly. Before she could respond, the signals suddenly intensified. New patterns emerged, more complex than before. I leaned forward, my heart pounding as I decoded them in real time. The system, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, it's not just channels. It's a network. An entire underground network of interconnected waterways, and it's all coming online. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just a natural phenomenon. This was technology, ancient Martian technology, awakening after who knows how many millennia. How long have you known about this? Dr. Phillips asked Amanda, his voice hard. She stumbled over her words. I just thought. She didn't know, I said, finally turning to face them. She saw the water discovery data but didn't understand what it meant. She couldn't decode the signals, couldn't see the patterns. That's why she needed me gone, because she knew I was close to something big, but she couldn't figure out what it was. Dr. Phillips straightened up, his decision clear on his face. Amanda, you're suspended pending a full investigation. Dr. Parker will be resuming her position as lead analyst, effective immediately. Amanda opened her mouth to protest, but at that moment, the signals pulsed again, stronger than ever. Everyone's attention snapped back to the screens, where Mars was telling us its ancient story, one decoded signal at a time. I settled back into my chair, a mix of vindication and excitement coursing through me. This was bigger than Amanda's betrayal, bigger than office politics or family drama. This was about uncovering secrets that had waited millions of years to be found. Let's see what else Mars has been hiding, I murmured, diving back into the data streams. The truth was finally emerging, and I was the only one who could understand its language. 1 month after the initial signal detection, I stood before the International Space Science Committee, presenting our findings. The room was packed with the world's leading scientists, all eagerly leaning forward as I revealed what we discovered beneath the Martian surface. The network, I explained, gesturing to the holographic model floating above the stage, spans approximately 300 square kilometers. It's an interconnected system of channels, chambers, and what appear to be processing stations, all designed to move and potentially purify water. The audience sat in stunned silence as I showed them the animated sequence of the network's activation. The blue lines representing water flow pulsed rhythmically, following patterns we were still working to fully understand. Most remarkably, I continued, the system appears to be self-maintaining. It has mechanisms for preventing freezing, filtering sediment, and even redirecting flow based on pressure changes. The engineering is, well, it's beyond anything we've ever seen. From the corner of my eye, I could see Amanda sitting in the back row. She'd been demoted to research assistant after the investigation revealed the full extent of her deception. Her attempt to steal my discovery had backfired spectacularly, leading instead to the biggest breakthrough in Mars exploration history. Dr. Parker, one of the committee members, leaned forward. What are the implications of this discovery? I smiled, pulling up new data on the display. Beyond proving the existence of ancient Martian civilization, the technology itself could revolutionize how we approach water management on Earth. The filtration systems alone are centuries ahead of our current capabilities. The questions flew fast after that. How old was the system? Preliminary dating suggested at least 300,000 years. Was it still fully functional? Remarkably, yes, though we were still learning its capabilities. Could we replicate the technology? We were already working on it. After the presentation, Dr. Phillips found me in the hallway. Outstanding work, Olivia, he said, beaming with pride. NASA's approved your proposal for a dedicated research team. You'll have full autonomy and resources to continue studying the network. Thank you, I replied, still somewhat overwhelmed by how much had changed. There's so much more to learn. The signals, they're not just about water management. I think they're trying to tell us something about the civilization that built this. And you'll be the one to figure it out, he said confidently. By the way, your sister requested a transfer to the Jupiter program. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Amanda's betrayal had hurt, but in the end, it had led to something extraordinary. Sometimes, I said, people's worst intentions can lead to the best outcomes. Later that evening, as I sat in my new office overlooking the NASA campus, I received an unexpected email from Amanda. Olivia, I know it's too late for apologies, but I want you to know that I understand now. I was so focused on advancement that I couldn't see the bigger picture. What you've discovered, it's changed everything. Not just for science, but for me too. I've learned a hard lesson about integrity and recognition. Amanda. I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I turned to my monitors, where the Martian signals continued their ancient dance. The network was still revealing new secrets every day, each discovery more fascinating than the last. Just yesterday, we'd found what appeared to be a control room, its systems still operational after hundreds of thousands of years. My phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Phillips. Meeting tomorrow at 900. Bringing in international teams. Your discovery is changing the future of space exploration. I smiled, watching the signal patterns pulse across my screen. The water network wasn't just a technological marvel. It was a message from an ancient civilization, proving we weren't alone in our quest to understand the universe. Amanda's betrayal had nearly derailed everything, but in the end, the truth had found its way to the surface, just like the water flowing through those ancient Martian channels. Sometimes the path to discovery isn't straight or fair, but if you stay true to your work and trust in your abilities, the universe has a way of revealing its secrets to those who can truly understand them. I turned back to my computer and began typing a reply to Amanda. The signals are getting stronger. There's still so much to learn. Maybe it's time we all started listening more carefully to Mars and to each other. The future stretched out before me, filled with possibilities I had only dreamed of. Mars was speaking to us, and I was ready to listen.